my gems, it's Joy here. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we'll be putting the spotlight on mental health and trauma healing. So we're looking at topics, our shared experiences, and help that's available out there. So today's episode, we'll be talking about the scary symptoms of anxiety, depression, complex PTSD, and PTSD. So recently I had a near stroke with hypertension, and this was caused by extreme stress. So it kicked off with a seizure, followed by the drooping of the right side of my face with paralysis, and also paralysis on the right hand side of my body. And my body was extremely tight. So I'm challenged with complex PTSD, which stands for complex post-traumatic stress disorder, resulting from prolonged trauma of being a survivor of child sex trafficking, domestic violence, and ongoing abuse. So due to this chronic trauma, I'm also challenged with various other mental health things, bipolar disorder 2, dissociative identity disorder, DID, depression, and anxiety. So about 2.5 years ago, I started having flashbacks from childhood trauma, as I just mentioned. So essentially reliving the trauma as if it was happening right now. And as you can imagine, this was completely terrifying. I would literally be screaming at the top of my voice in the middle of the night with flashbacks. I would experience the physical sensations of assault against my person, and I would mentally leave the room and see figures of my abusers and handlers. I would also have seizures in the night, and on more than one occasion, I'd be comatose in one position just from the sheer hell of the flashback. I also had a couple of daytime and audible flashbacks. I even had an episode where I temporarily did not understand the English language anymore. As a result of this, I started EMDR therapy, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, where you use eye movements and or bilateral stimulation where you tap on your body on the right and left side, or you can use some vibration pads that you hold. And this therapy moves the trauma from the right brain to the left brain, where your brain can then reprocess the trauma. And this is done in a safe and controlled environment so that you're not reliving that trauma in the now. So traumatic events tend to activate the right-hand side of the brain, which stores your memories, emotions, visual, spatial data, your intuition, whereas the left side deactivates trauma. So I did EMDR therapy twice a week for 9 months. It was heavy, challenging work, but you're able to see the trauma as a third person and then sort of rectify the trauma within your own power. And also through that, my partner was also able to learn tools to what I call keep me in the room when a flashback was starting to build. The technique is to ground you, sort of putting a circle of fire around you where nothing can harm you. And it was very, very helpful. So this type of symptom fallout is rather extreme within the scary symptoms that can happen. But other symptoms are shortness of breath, tight chest, a tight body, tightness in the throat whereby you can barely swallow. That's happened to me, and I've had to have an emergency adrenaline shot to reopen up my throat and airway. You can also have the inability to talk or move, where you become comatose. I've had this in the past with panic attacks where I'm just sitting for a duration of time, not doing anything, not necessarily feeling anything, not necessarily being in the room. You can also experience dizziness, vertigo. I've had a couple of panic attacks where I have landed in the ER after hyperventilating till I passed out. I've also had an intestinal infection due to stress and anxiety, vertigo. I've even had the onset of stuttering. There's also the fear of losing control of your body in front of other people, and also of dying. Sometimes the chest pain's so bad, you literally think you're having a heart attack. One of, as if the rest isn't challenging, but another really challenging symptom is insomnia. I've had chronic insomnia, and I got to the point where I was only sleeping 12 hours a week. And this makes you feel like you're drunk, if you're familiar with that feeling. And it may result in irrational decision-making, loss of clarity, because your body and mind just hasn't had time to rest and recover from the day. Also, with these types of mental health challenges, oftentimes we may feel judged, misunderstood, which has like a lonely effect on you. There's also a lot of internal pressure, like, why haven't we recovered yet? You know, why can't I get on with it? Why am I still here at this position? And then sometimes you might compare yourself to others and then have more negative feelings about yourself. So self-compassion is key. You have to be kind to yourself. It's okay to say no to people, to invitations. It's okay to have periods where you're by yourself in the house, feeling safe so that you're able to recover further. And also, there's no competition between fellow sufferers. I was speaking on a panel a while ago about mental health at work. And one of the panelists turned to me and said that their mental illness was more severe than mine, without knowing my story, without knowing my path. So let's uplift and not put down our community. I call it the club that we didn't sign up for. However, in this membership, we can have our own support group with care and love. So it's also important to have a loving advocate that can help get you the right help. I'd always experience abuse and violence. So for me, I did not recognize that my behavior and life circumstances were birthed out of this chronic trauma. I just thought that that's how life is, how life was. I did not have someone to point out and take me to the side and say, you know what, something is very wrong here and you need help. So now that mental health is becoming more at the forefront of conversations than ever before, I was able to gain knowledge, and I finally knew that something was terribly wrong and that I needed help. So for me, prayer, confessions of faith, mindfulness meditation, shadow work, EMDR, talk therapy, sleep, and medication have been instrumental in my healing journey. And I'll talk more about these in other episodes coming up, as well as modalities that you can follow to help you on your healing journey. So stay tuned for much more. I also want to remind you that, I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up, that the abuse didn't make you strong. You overcame it because you were already strong. And let's not give abusers the credit for making us strong. And to all of you out there, you are all precious gems. I want you to know that I see you, I feel you, you have value, you have a purpose, and your uniqueness is your power. So hang on. Help is on the way.